Good morning and welcome to the new media show. My name is Todd Cochrane. I want to welcome you to the podcast. Of course, I want to say warm welcome to my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning, Todd. It's great to be back on the show.
That's
Doing it
right.
again. We love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Next weekend we're gonna be hanging out with a bunch of cool cats in Orlando, Florida for Podfest.
I know it's going to be like 80 degrees down there. It's going to be like the weather you normally have, but for me, it's special.
Rob, you don't want to know what I'm wearing right now. I mean, of course, I'm wearing a nice polo shirt, but I'm wearing gym shorts.
Oh my goodness.
Because as soon as this show's over, that's where I go. I'm going to the gym. So I just got to change shirts, change into a t-shirt and rock. But anyway,
So, so
go
are
ahead.
you on a workout routine now? Are you
Yeah, I'm going.
rocking the gym these days?
Yeah, I'm going 5 days a week, and my fat butt. I'm trying to. The goal is to lose 20 to 30 pounds over the next year, and so we'll see what happens.
Sure.
And I'm not like going all the way to do anything stupid, like going on some urine diet or something like that. It's no, it's gonna be just I'm just trying to watch what I eat. With the
Yeah.
exception of last night, my wife took me to where did we end up? Oh, some Japanese restaurant, and I did not have the healthy decision choices. So yeah, yesterday was a little bit off track, but hey, that's the way it is. But anyway,
Yeah.
we uh we got an interesting email, and
Again.
it was from a one of these. You could tell someone had made an email because it was like EFG 24 comma period explanation. It was a made up email, and I essentially was in a one sentence. I was advised not to share the Sirius podcasting application or whatever it is link, and I
Didn't
thought,
say who they were or anything. It was
no,
just
no, encouraged not to. So it was like, if you
wow.
do, we'll bring the lawyers down on you, or maybe. But anyway, someone was listening, and those of you that didn't listen all the way to the end of the show last week, you're saying, "What the heck are they talking about?" So, and we actually kind of goofed up. We had the biggest breaking news of the month, and we put it at the end. We weren't planning very well, were we?
Well, it gets people to listen all the way to the end. Or it's either that or they just fast forward all the
Yeah.
way to the end. Yeah.
But long story short, um, it appears that Sirius is gonna
Serious.
Sirius. They still call it XM, Sirius XM, but anyway,
Yeah.
Sirius
Yep.
is looks like they're going to be jumping the podcasting space, and they have a public-facing right now, no password required, website that certain people are being given access to be able to apply to have their shows on some sort of platform, whether it be a
Y-
website or an app.
I think it was mainly an
I
app,
think it's an
was the
app.
impression I
Yeah,
got.
it looked
Yeah.
like an app to me too. And I was reading through I went through all the steps except for hit submit. I was reading their disclaimers, and it does say in their app that they're going to run ads between content.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't say anything about revenue share at all. But it doesn't look like people are going to be required to change their internal content. So it looks like you'll still be able to potentially run advertising in your show. So
Yeah. You can submit your RSS feed just
yeah,
like, you can with iTunes or anything like that. So Uh, it's 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 one of those things that they're probably figuring out as they go along. They're sending out personal invitations
right.
to certain shows.
Yep.
That's what it appears to be what they're doing, and they're trying to recruit content to get a base catalog. I'm sure built, which is kind of a normal thing that you would expect for something like this. But I don't it's hard to say what the direction of this is or even if it's going to be significant, but it is certainly interesting that these guys are getting involved. I do have to say that uh, the XM and Sirius folks have been dabbling with podcasting for many years, more from the content side. So this is what's really different here is that they're getting into it from a distribution side, or a redistribution side, might be a better way of saying it.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, it's always great to have another big player in the space. The danger is that big player kind of bumbles their way through it because they don't understand the medium. There's always a risk of that. We've seen that happen in the past too. So it would be advisable that those folks talk to people in the podcasting space to maybe get a little help, get a little suggestion, reach out to the community and talk to us. We don't really want to be adversaries here
No.
or anything like that. So it's really all, it's up to you, and how you want to approach the podcasting community. It would be advisable, and Todd, I'm sure you'll agree that being careful on how you approach this community is advisable. Things can get out of control for you if it isn't done properly.
And you don't want to do this the way iHeart has done it, and I
Yeah.
think with the app, with the public-facing website, and it looks like they've got the ability for people to go in and submit. To me,
Hmm.
that is okay. They've learned one thing at least,
Yeah, that's right.
So, and hopefully whoever's advising them. I had a call from a some guy earlier in the week. He wanted to, it was a business call, and he wanted me to sign an NDA. And I said, I don't sign NDAs because I'm exposed to a lot of stuff, and we're working a lot of projects. And I sign an NDA, and you tell me something, and it causes all kinds of conflicts. And so we got on the phone, and the first thing I said to him, I says, listen, I said, if you're working for Sirius, the cat's already out of the bag. And he said, no, I'm not working for Sirius. So I thought, okay, that's clear. I was hoping actually he would say, "Oh man, how did you find out?" That's what I was hoping he would say, but no, he didn't. So
Well, when you send emails out to podcasters, soliciting their content, word is going to get out, folks.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's just how it works in
yeah,
this space.
it
You can't
is.
keep it quite like that, and especially if you
No,
have a public-facing website
right,
that's easily accessible to anyone. It's just knowing the address.
that's right.
You're kind of setting yourself up.
And it is kind of a weird address, but it's
Yeah, it is.
and
Well, it's like one of those project something,
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right?
But anyway, I know the Sirius folks are listening, at least, or someone that thinks they know something about Sirius is listening. Come on, we'd love to have you on the show. Love to have a talk with you when you're ready to talk and share your plans and what you're going to do and how you're going to be competing in the space and what the goal is. And we definitely want to have you on because we might as well come on here first because we broke it for you. So and
Hmm. We broke it for you.
yeah, we
Yes.
broke the news. So
I know. I know.
the cat's out of the bag.
Well, and also I think, I mean, if you want to be involved in like maybe podcast movement or anything like that, I mean, I make recommendations to podcast movement folks about panel topics, and I'm going to be putting some panel sessions together again this year, and would love to get a representative from Sirius involved somehow and sharing what you guys are doing with the community. It's a great place to do it. So, I mean, take up Todd's ask here and come on the show and talk about what you're doing if you're ready to do that. Maybe you're not ready to talk about it yet, but
Well, Daniel says, wouldn't it be funny if the person who broke the serious news is the same person who broke the NDA with Apple and New York Times? Well, this there was no NDA for Sirius. Just so we're clear, it was an
not
email.
that we've seen.
No,
Yeah.
it was an email only.
Yep.
So
Trying to go after, the higher end spectrum of podcasting content is
yeah,
what it was.
yeah,
So, which is a common thing that
yeah,
media
yeah.
companies that get into the space do. Spotify had done the same thing.
They're gonna fill.
Trying,
They're gonna put the top. They're gonna go top down.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The most popular shows will be added first,
Yep.
and then it will go down from there. But like you said, Todd, they had a website that had a form that you would submit your RSS feed, just like you would with
I was
iTunes.
so tempted to hit submit, Rob.
Well, I don't know. I don't know why you couldn't do it, right?
Well,
I mean, you're going to get in trouble for that?
well, no. Well, I don't know. The, people can be, they could hold it against you. So I'm not going to
Yeah,
submit
well,
it.
that's true.
Yeah.
I suppose that certainly is true. And part of the reason why companies do this too is maybe their infrastructure isn't
Right.
hasn't been tested at scale.
And they might be in just a low end server doing testing. Yeah.
Hmm. And certainly that could be one of the reasons why they don't want us to share the link, because then maybe they're not ready to have that number of influx of submissions come
Hmm.
into their catalog. I mean, I went through it at Microsoft. I mean, it was a concern putting the public submissions out there, and there's 300,000 shows. You're going to get you're not going to get that many because it's hard to reach 300,000 podcasters. So
And
it's not
I've
easy.
had, just based on what we do, I think we're crawling 360 some thousand shows every 2 hours now or something like that and
Hmm.
updating.
Hmm.
In order to do that, it used to take us like 6 hours to
Hmm.
crawl 100,000 shows or something like that. But now we've got smart, and the only way you figure out how to crawl and update your directory is by trial and error and having stuff fall over and fail, and being able to figure out what to do with the bad feeds that are out there. And it's it's not easy to build a you can build an inefficient crawler pretty easily.
Hmm.
And that crawler might take 2 or 3 days to crawl um, all those shows. And for some folks that's enough. That's fast enough. But when we're trying to stay current, we're updating it probably as fast or faster than iTunes is these days. Um, it's just a matter of of getting that down where what you learn is, some shows have got 500 episodes in their feeds, and they haven't learned yet that 299 is really the max, and that you should have. And so you just have to learn to accommodate the folks that just don't follow the rules
Hmm.
or has a feed that takes a little longer to load.
So did you get on the call this week with the syndicated media
I was
folks?
I was busy. I did not.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. I hopped on it for a while.
but did you see Dave Weiner responded to their announcement about their Berkman Center?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he posted a tweet, and
Was
it
Dave?
Dave was Dave, and let me read it to you. It said, let me back here and find it. Did someone delete it? Did they delete the?
Or did he take it down?
Maybe Dave took it down, but maybe there was a post in the actual. Shit. So let me look at the other. Or maybe I'm in the wrong chat room here. Well, basically, Dave's in essence said that the spec doesn't live anywhere, and say they put an announcement together for an event to be held at Berkman Center, and it basically is 3 days or 2.5 days or something like that of coding and coming up with ideas. And okay, Dave said, "You're gonna love this. This is bogus. RSS is not housed anywhere. Whoever's behind this at Berkman should get in touch with me. Thanks." and it
Yeah.
and it referred to Syndicated's media announcement of this event at Berkman Center. So I the the Syndicated Media Group so far, obviously they're working openly. But the little problem I have, and the only concern I have at this point, is Syndicated.media is owned by someone that works for some company. I don't know if it's PRX. Exactly. I asked for clarification on that and really did not get it. But if you're gonna start putting together specs for the community and to put them on a website and then publish those specs on a website that is, if this is going to be a community spec, quote unquote, and you're going to put this on a public website, then this syndicated media stuff needs to become a 401c nonprofit.
Yeah, he's not willing to do that.
Well, then I don't know if I can get behind, um, this, because there's some issues here. If you want to be open, um, you understand where my concern's coming from, Rob?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was on that call, and
Oh, you were.
it seemed like they were. It seems like the guy's coming at it from a genuine perspective, and he's looking for community engagement. He wants to attract more people, but I think it's great to attract as many people as possible here. But I also am a little concerned that it could become a little unwieldy. If you get everyone providing input on this, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how you make decisions on things.
And it's true,
Um,
but Daniel says it's is not trying to be a central home for RSS. No, they're trying to extend RSS
yeah,
and publish extended RSS specs that they are going to try to get consensus to get the industry to agree to, and they're going to put
yeah,
that spec on a syndicated.media site that is not owned by the community.
yeah,
It
yeah.
may be minutia, but what caused the Association of Downloadable Media to fail? It was
Battling agendas. Yeah,
battling agendas.
yeah,
And here, you know, we've already, Angela's already kind of gave up, um, because stuff that he has suggested has just been discounted. And he's like, and in some stuff, he's like, they don't know what they're talking about. So, and I have my dev that's, trying, and then is like, okay, I'll check in once in a while and not taking it serious. Um, because we brought this up to them, and they definitely don't like the idea of going nonprofit.
no.
I'll chip in money to
Well,
help them go nonprofit,
I mean, it's a complex process. That's part of the reason.
but there's
But
no money in the game yet, so
yeah, that's right.
it's easier.
There's no membership dues on this
Mm-hmm.
organization or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to come from donations, or they're going to have to. I don't know where that's going to come from. Um, but I do think that one of the things about trying to change RSS is that I think we all have to get really clear where's the goalpost on this.
Mm-hmm.
What's trying to be accomplished? Why are we even doing it? I would say that generally RSS is not a broken
No.
standard at this point. I'm not sure what the goal is. I think that's important to establish first.
Did they
Um,
talk about this blockchain of wanting a master directory that everyone could pull from?
I don't remember. Yeah, I wasn't on the whole call. I was only on toward the end, so I may have missed something. So I'm not sure. I mean, is
So
that what you
that
had heard?
that's something they're working on, and I kind of laugh because OPML would fill that solution, without having to. And I don't, maybe OPML and blockchain are the same thing. I don't know.
Hmm.
But the way we built directories and the way we built directory listings before is an OPML format, which
Hmm.
is well established.
Yeah,
And for those of you that don't know, just Google it. Um,
it's basically just an XML format that
right,
creates a list.
right,
It's just a list of links or whatever.
yep.
Yeah.
So okay, so where does that reside, and who manages the influx and the managing, just managing and updating and keeping current the listings is going to be someone's full-time job. Because if you let podcasters go in there and just submit their stuff, where there's an RSS feed, you're going to get an iTunes link, and it's going to be it's going to be a mess. So yeah, yeah, and they're worried about Apple shutting off the API access to their directory. I find it incredible that there's so many apps today that if Apple closed
Hmm.
their API, they'd be done. Boom. Their app would not work. And
Yeah.
it scares me. That's one of the reasons why we don't go through Apple's API at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that would be an easy thing for them to turn
yeah,
off.
boom. You get a couple of abusers, someone that's not been doing very much coding, and is hitting that site too often. They say, "Then, man, this is ridiculous." Either they throttle that person, and I think they have in the past throttled individuals, or they just shut it out for everyone.
That would be good for them from a competitive perspective to turn it off.
Yeah,
Because there are a lot of apps that are using that as a source that are getting pretty popular.
yeah.
And if Apple wanted to capture market share back again, that would be a pretty simple thing to do. Of course, they would be. I don't know that a lot of podcast listeners realize where that listing is coming from. So if they turned it off, I'm not sure that. I mean, word would spread, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I just don't know really how much of a big impact that would have on negative blowback on Apple. I don't know. I don't know what's
Well,
your thought.
I'm prepared, and we license our directory.
There you go.
You can either get a mass download once a week, or you can actively tap the whole system and get the episodes and everything. Daniel does say in the chat room they're considering putting on Pearl.org, Purl.org. I'm not familiar with Pearl.org. Um,
Hmm.
Pearl. Then again, okay, so if they put it on Pearl.org, once again, who's in control of the account? you know,
Yeah.
um, oh, it's initiative of the Internet Archive. So that's that seems like an interesting place to put it, but
Hmm.
um, you can create a new domain, I guess. That's interesting. So well, maybe there.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that here's everyone may have um, pure, and this is okay. When I talk to people that are like managing and having to put together sessions for podcasting events,
Hmm.
the person that is managing those session levels is under extreme pressure to get the lineup right and not piss a bunch of people off.
Hmm.
It's a fine line. You have to tap dance and do this walk, right?
Yep. Yep.
And what I've told anyone that's doing an event and coming up with a agenda, I tell them everyone that has submitted you a session has an agenda. Everyone. And
Hmm.
they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm a company. I want to speak at your event. I'm going to talk about a topic that's, close to my heart,
Beneficial to you. Yeah.
but I'm going to not do a pitch. I'm not going
Hmm.
to promote, but I'm going to be
Hmm.
talking about a topic that is part of my agenda and what I want to get the word out and get people trained on." So
Sure.
everyone, and some people have a sinister agenda, and some people have, so everyone has an agenda. So, and I understand, I'm going to just, I'm giving everyone the benefit of the doubt so far at syndicated media. I haven't seen nothing to make me go, shotgun blast someone in the face, right? And I'm not there at all. But everyone that's part of that group has an agenda. Everyone,
Hmm.
you know. And if they say they don't, it's wrong. They do. Because everyone has certain things that they want to accomplish. Would I love to see our spec that we put together for extending RSS years ago about um, some media elements and that type of stuff get picked up? Absolutely. Is it probably not going to happen because I originated the spec in the first place? Probably not. It may be reformatted in a new type of listing and have different tags and stuff.
Hmm.
In the end, would I be happy with that? Yeah, it accomplishes the same thing. Do I have to retool a little bit? Sure. But if I can get mass adoption,
Hmm.
across the community, we all win.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
I think so long as everyone is open for discussion to keep talking, and there's not, and really what's going to happen is those that have an aggressive agenda, those are the ones that are going to get their specs put forth, and they're going to bulldog them through. And it's going to
Hmm.
be up to the rest of us to make sure, okay, is this going to, and I always look at, and I'm sorry, I'm cynical. And, Rob, we've been around this space long enough that I think that's well deserved, right?
Hmm.
To be
Oh yeah.
cynical, I'm going to look at everything like with a magnifying glass. I'm going to say, why do they want this? What is the need? Is there some ulterior motive?
Yeah.
Is there some financial? We all want to, business companies want to make money, right? That's
Yeah.
if,
Yeah.
if you say you're not, go work for a nonprofit.
Yeah. That's the whole point, right? Um, yeah. I mean, I think that the changing the RSS spec right now, any change like that needs to be thought through as to what the motivation is and why to do it, because there's nothing to stop somebody from creating a namespace,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So
And everything should be done in a namespace that they're going to do. The 2.0
yeah.
spec, podcasters are not in control of that. That is a global
Hmm.
specification used by a lot
Yeah.
more people than podcasting space.
Oh yeah,
We
definitely.
we have
So
one thing.
changing that,
Yeah.
there's never been a splinter group
No.
for podcasting with the RSS2 spec. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what's also a little concerning about this too, is that you make a change like this and it's not widely adopted.
It's worthless.
Uh, is it going to break something?
Well,
Uh,
Rob, they don't want to change RSS 2.0, the spec itself.
okay,
They just
they
want to,
want to add create what
right,
to consolidate the namespaces.
or just do like we did and add a namespace. I don't even know if they want to
Well,
consolidate.
but I mean, unless it's something that Apple supports and
Well,
other people support, I mean, it's going to be
well,
virtually worthless,
well,
right?
here's what we found. Okay, so we come up with this great spec, right? Man, it's
Yep.
going to change everything. You're going to be able to get pop-ups at certain time points in a player. You're going to be able to run surveys within the episode, and
Yeah.
it's all this stuff that we came up with is a.
Hmm.
But getting adoption
That's a whole
is
other
it's
thing.
a whole nother situation. So, what it ultimately is going to backfill into is you're going to have again people that have agendas, because we all have agendas. I have an agenda. Um, it's going to backfill into apps that companies have, but in order to get wide adoption, we found out how difficult it was just to get Subscribe on Android off the ground. We're a year and a half into that, almost 2 years come April. 13 apps, 13 Android apps. But, I had to pound the emails, reach out, do phone calls, call in favors to get that adopted. Just
Yeah.
to get a simple, like 3 or 4 lines of code added to
Yeah.
every Android app. Just like, a cut and paste. That's all was
Mm.
needed.
Hmm.
And in 2 years, and I got 13 apps. So who's going to be the bulldog then if they do
Yeah.
this namespace to push for adoption across Spreaker, Libsyn, us,
Yeah.
Podbean, all the big players that are going to be out there that are taking care of podcasters today.
Hmm.
And if that info's not in the feed, it's not going to help the apps at all.
Yeah. And if you do have an intention of changing the RSS spec somehow, you know, getting that agreed to again,
Oh,
just ask Dave Weiner how that's going to work out. I just think that we're in a culture and society now where you can't really get consensus.
you get more than 3 people in a room.
You can't get
No.
consensus on anything. It's actually a miracle that we even have RSS 2.0.
Yeah. And the reason we did is that's why Dave is somewhat not liked in some places. He had to be the ultimate asshole and say, no, it's done. It's locked. This is
Yeah,
it.
bulldog. You had to be a bulldog
He
about
had
it.
to be absolutely and boom, it was done. And we should thank, people don't realize Adam Curry and Dave Weiner, if they had not added that enclosure tag, this space would not exist in the way it does today. It would not
Well,
exist.
Dave, when he added that to the RSS2 spec, I don't think he had any idea that
No,
podcasting was going to be something that was going to
no, no clue.
happen or take off or anything.
Curry put it together. He's like, oh man, look at that. Bada bing, bada boom.
I mean, it's always been in the spec enclosure. I think a lot of people were
And
using it more from a document perspective. I
yeah,
think is what the idea was. It wasn't media files.
right. So, long story short, they're not going to mess with the actual core RSS spec. They're just going to go after the namespace, and I think that, um, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but we'll see. I'll try to support as much as I can, but I'm going to be, sleeping with one eye open at the same time too.
I mean, I would, Todd. I mean, I would like to actually talk to Dave at some point if we could ever get him
Oh,
on the
he'll
show.
never come on the show.
I know I've asked him a couple times to actually talk about that RSS2 spec, and if he would change it, what would he do?
Oh,
And
oh, Rob, you'll be crucified at the stake if you talk about changing RSS in front of Dave.
well, it's improving it or adding to
But
it.
anyone can add to it. That's just the
I
problem.
know, no, I know, but to the actual spec,
Oh
because
yeah.
if you add to the spec, then you're going to get a better chance of wider adoption.
Right. Is he the guy to bulldog RSS 3.0? Does he
I
even
can't
want that fight?
I can't think of anybody that would be any better at it, but
Right.
yeah, I don't think he's going to do it though. I think that train has left the station for him, but
Yeah. So
it's unfortunate because there may be needs for a RSS 3.0 spec at some point, and I don't know that we're there yet, but it may be coming.
so what we
and
sh-
that,
go ahead.
and that's why it would be very important to talk to Dave about that.
So what we should do is after we get back from Podfest is ask one of the syndicated media folks to come on the show and have them on and just hammer on this for 90 minutes. Well, I think we need to. I think it's there. It's a worthy discussion, and I'm sure they're listening to this show. I don't know if they are or not, but if they are, But here's the
Mhm.
here's the key, and I'm just gonna say this: if you don't get the majors, all the major, at least I think you're gonna have to get 5. I think you're gonna have to get you guys, get us, get Libsyn, get Podbean, and at least one other indie to all implement whatever's new. You're not gonna push the bar.
Yeah.
But you got to get everyone to agree to add this. And there's some stuff that Angela said, this is good. This is a good idea. But, I think they're going to have to come to and again, we're not the only, I don't want to make it sound, but let's be honest. I'm touching about 85,000 podcasters, Libsyn, I don't know how many.
They're probably in the 30 to 40 range.
I mean, not all those for us. Not all those are customers. We've got those. Some of their stats. Some of those are hosting. Some of some of them are using PowerPress. You're gonna have to get all the plug-in folks, every plug-in team on board this. So you're gonna have 3 or 4 at least of those plug-in folks adapt. So because it doesn't get in the feed unless we allow it to go in the feed. Or someone builds, or someone builds a new plug, or someone builds an add-on plugin. They could do that.
And even adding something like this, it's going to take a couple of years or more
Yeah.
for it to be widely adopted.
To be adopted, but adding something is not hard.
No,
not at all. But it brings up an interesting point because there was some commentary coming out of Apple, specifically Eddie Q's interview at Code Media Conference. And he did make some comments about podcasting. And, I think I've publicly said on this show I would not be surprised if Apple in the podcast.apple.com website does not, I would not be surprised if they did not provide Apple stats to all podcasters. I would not be shocked to see that happen.
Hmm.
So he hinted that they're doing something. Any, a lot of speculation this week on that.
There's been a lot of talk that I've heard about some sort of a monetization strategy of some sort. I know that's been talked
Mm.
about a lot. Um, what that would look like, I'm not entirely sure, but there might be some aspect of this that could be moving them more towards, kind of offering premium podcasts. I could see them doing that at some point. That's not going to be anything that takes away from their free distribution platform, but I can see them adding something like that. I agree with you that around metrics, I think better sharing of usage on the platform. There's probably a limit to what they're willing to do on that.
E-
But there's been a lot of pressure on them for many years to
but
to provide a little bit more.
but even the stats they provide partners, I think, you know, you come off of our
They're
system, what we provide, and then you go to Apple's, and it's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to think that those stats are very useful in some
yeah,
ways,
yeah.
and that's the tough part about it. Because I mean, I've seen those stats too, Todd, and I've got a couple of networks that I have access to, and it's great to have that stuff. But I look at them and I kind of wonder if they're really, I hate to say this, but how accurate they are. I don't know.
Well, I ought to take some screenshots and then dummy them down so that no one can see the associated numbers. Maybe we ought to do that at some point so people can actually see what they look like.
Yeah, and also Apple. I mean, is Apple supporting kind of the standard way that you filter against or
That's
episode
You
requests? I
never
don't know,
know. You
right?
don't know because they could. Well, in the iOS app, there shouldn't have to be any filtering. iOS app plays will be pretty pure. Those will be pretty. I don't think you have to worry about bots affecting the app.
No, no, as far as that goes, but what's their metric around counting uniques?
Um,
What's considered a unique download? What's considered, I mean, if you click play and
mm-hmm.
then what's the
It's,
duration between clicking play on an episode from a unique IP? Just a lot of things like that. We just don't know how Apple is counting, right?
so so I don't know. We'll see what they bring to market. I don't think that there's a niche of folks that want to provide premium. And in order to really make premium successful, you need to have a pretty significant audience. Um, so as far as
Yeah,
the
but if
monetization,
it's easy to subscribe
right?
into a paid podcast on iTunes, I think there could be. It's not going to be a $1 billion business for
No,
them, but it could be some revenue for iTunes.
if they do a
Uh,
revenue share on advertising on pre-rolls,
they could
I think they'll
they
clean
could
up.
they could do that.
I think they will clean up if they do that. I think some companies will go flat out of business. Like it'll be devastating if they do that
Mhm.
because,
But
well,
keep in mind, Apple's not an advertising company, though.
they
That's the other thing that I
doesn't
just don't. There's no real examples of them doing this and being successful at anything like this.
I don't have the Apple. What is their equivalent of where you pay unlimited to get streaming audio? I don't subscribe to that. Anyone that does, it's in the chat room. Do they play ads in that at all? Is there any ads in that where you play 1995 or whatever it is and you get the full access to their entire library of media? Does anyone know?
Are you
Uh,
talking about their music subscription
yeah, yeah. Is there
thing?
is there ads played in the music subscription system, or you get ad free experience?
I would think it's ad free. I'm not. I'm not sure. I don't subscribe, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it
So,
would surprise me if it was an ad supported model from those guys.
well, you pay. I think even if you pay for Pandora, you still get ads.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I
That's
think
true.
so, at least, or fewer ads, but I think you still get ads. Maybe I'm wrong too because I don't pay for Pandora.
Yeah,
Hmm. Well, I
it's a good
do, but my kids listen to it. I don't.
it's a good question.
Well, so we'll see. So they're working on new features. Okay. In uh, Steve and some of the other guys. uh, Rob and I would love to sign an NDA and come in and talk to you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've been in
Uh,
there more than a few times.
yeah, but usually not under an NDA from them to talk about future plans of iTunes.
Oh no, no, as far as that goes, no, no. But there's certainly all sorts of discussion about lots of other things,
So
and
I wonder if they're going to be at Podfest.
we should reach out to Steve and James and see if they're going to. I would think probably not. Would be my guess. I'm not sure. It's
We'll have to keep an eye out for them.
I don't know.
They usually
I don't
show
know.
up kind of incognito.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you know who they are,
Yeah, yeah,
they're pretty easy to spot.
right.
But if you don't, they can kind of swoop in and you
Yeah,
won't even know they're
yeah.
there.
You'll be talking to him and you won't even know you're talking to the Apple guy.
Well, and I think they've hired a new guy or a new person. It could be a woman um, down in Culver City.
Oh,
I would imagine by now. It's been a couple months.
I haven't seen anybody like, at least nobody in the podcasting community said, "Woohoo! I got hired at Apple." That would probably be like, if it was an existing
Maybe they told
podcaster.
them that they can't say anything.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you just got hired, but you can't tell your podcast friends you've been hired.
Yeah, that's right.
You quietly update your LinkedIn profile and hope someone sees it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Working with Apple Music. That's let's see what this says. If they have any um, advertising. Huh.
Yeah,
Says
we didn't
banner builder.
we didn't get any feedback in the chat room, so hey,
Oh well.
those of you watching us on YouTube, we're also live at facebook.com/Cochrane, Cochrane. Or you can come over to newmediashow.com/live. You can join the chat room there as well, but a little bit more lively conversation on Facebook. For those of you that are on Facebook right now, we're got quite a few people that are watching the stream on Facebook at this point. So, I mean on YouTube, excuse me. So I guess it's going to be we'll have to see what happens here, Rob, with Apple. I'm excited. One person says, "Oh, I hope they provide hosting and RSS feeds." I'm like, no, if they did that, I would like probably fall over dead.
Well, I also want. Yeah, exactly. I don't know that they're going to do that, but it would be interesting to see if they're going to announce their own little kind of voice agent box. Like a competitor to Echo and Google Home. If they're going to come out with something and that could incorporate podcasting capabilities in it.
I think they're in for penny for a pound for the Apple TV. I think so. And of course,
Well, that
podcasting has taken a backstage on the Apple TV. If you don't know where to find it now, it's kind of buried down in the weeds.
Well, I think the Apple TV is kind of taken backstage in many regards. I think
It's
Apple just hasn't been able to push the envelope on that.
the
Um,
the only thing I use the Apple TV for is when I actually buy a movie. That's the only
mm,
time I actually use it. When I buy a movie, I know that it's probably relatively safe, that I'm not going to get screwed and have to go buy it again later on.
mhm.
But I don't buy movies on, and I probably could do it on Amazon too, but I spend most of my time, excuse me, in the, wow, on the Roku or on the Amazon Fire. That's where I spend the majority of my OTT time. I don't spend it on the Apple TV at all. I go
Mhm.
in to check and make sure my show's still playing, it works over there, and how it looks, and if it's formatted right, and all that stuff. But that's really the extent of it. So, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. But yeah, it's definitely a market. All right. Let's talk about bridge ratings.
Oh yes, bridge ratings.
Yes.
I was reading through that earlier today.
So
Yeah.
I tried to read through and make sure that to see if this had been paid for by anyone. There doesn't seem to be any disclosures that,
No, I
um,
didn't see any either.
but I
Mm.
did notice a company named a couple of times. So I'm always, I don't know, Dave.
Dave. Yeah.
So,
Dave Van Dyke. Yeah.
so do you think this was sponsored, or do you think this was just his piece to put out?
Well, I think he is trying to come up with research that he can sell to platforms and things like that. So I think what he puts up here is basically just kind of like the tip of the iceberg of what he's actually done some research on.
Yep.
So this is a little bit of a teaser to get people to come in and get a deeper analysis. So that's the impression. Actually, I was going to try and invite Dave to come on and talk about it, but
Oh, I'd love to have
but
him on.
yeah, but I wasn't able to get a hold of him in time. But I mean, it's interesting what he's doing. There appears to be in this particular study a growing propensity to people generally out there to listen to podcasts. So people are more and more gravitating towards looking at podcasts as something that they would be interested in, which I think is a good trend line.
Yep.
I have to say. So, which means that audience growth seems to be on the table as something that is happening. So, which I think is important to the long term as we see this phase that we were going through, Todd, and you probably agree, it's the last couple of years have been all about content.
Hmm.
Um, we haven't really seen a lot of breakthrough technology innovations. I mean, other than maybe Alexa and Echo, that have pushed the envelope on podcasting. But
Yep.
what we've seen is an explosion of content, all
Content
types of
deals.
content,
Yep.
and quality content. I think that the bar has definitely been raised. A lot of big brands are coming in. A lot of very community connected names, celebrities, uh, what have you, experts that are well known in their industries have come in and created podcasts that I think is starting to reach more listeners, which I think was really, really important in the space. Because and to some degree, I'm still a little worried that the content growth is outpacing the audience. And once that happens, then you start splintering audiences to the point where nobody's getting many listeners to things. And that's when kind of the model starts to fall apart.
Just looking in really my only, mm, I've not done no analysis on this. It's just put my thumb up and looking in the wind here.
Yeah.
Um, I think we're seeing a huge influx of new shows.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yep.
I
Agreed.
just look at our new customer numbers. Um, it's like every other week I'm setting a new record on new customer acquisitions, and maybe we're just getting bigger, and that's just it's just thing happens when as you're getting bigger. I don't know. I don't know if you can say, Rob, but I'm definitely seeing, and if we're seeing a big increase, I'm sure every one of the other media companies is as well.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just like it's you thinking, okay, is this thing going to keep on? I'm not. I'm like, you breathe because you're like, oh my, at the end of the month, you look at the totals and you're like, wow, we're still on the upswing here. So I'm pretty bullish right now. But again, a lot of new content, but a lot of it's going to fail. We started a thing last year to really try to make sure that the new podcasters got off to a good foot, and we're talking to every one of our new podcasters, and everything that we can do to make sure that they are getting up to speed and they don't fail at episode 7. um that's give these shows enough time to get some life into them, but a lot of content coming into the space. And I know you were talking about the deals being made with the Panapolis and the Gimlets and those folks. They're going to continue to do those deals. They have to, because that's their business. They're content companies.
Hmm.
and they're going to be. It hasn't changed a lot because I was at NAB as an exhibitor a long time ago,
Hmm.
right when the Roku first came out. We had channels 13, 14, and 15 on the Roku. So we were really early adopters there, and we went to NAB right after that. And people were like, "What? What's a Roku?" Um, but everything that, even then, people were saying content, content, content. We want to buy content. We want you. Can you supply us content? Can you get us content? So I keep hearing, there's this huge insatiable demand for content, but there's a lot of content out there, and I don't think a lot of people know how to get to all of it. So I think discovery is becoming a bigger issue than than it has been before.
Yeah, because I'm getting more questions about how to grow your show's listener base than I have in the past. Um, I think people are feeling a lot of pressure, um, as the amount, like you said, as the amount of content grows.
Hmm.
We're basically splintering the potential audience base, and that makes it tough for each individual show to be able to scale to amount that they can monetize, if that's their goal. Not every show's trying to monetize, but it just seems like I just don't know for sure, how fast overall
Hmm.
audience is. There's no metrics out there that would tell us that, other than Apple has that stuff, but they're not sharing overall, listener growth.
Yeah, we know how many new shows are coming into Apple every week, but we don't know how many new
People are
listeners.
listening.
Yeah. And Rob at Libsyn's publish their numbers all the time and talking about the average number of listeners per show. Our numbers don't skew as negative as his does. Ours are are more positive, I guess, from an average standpoint. But
Hmm.
um, but I also only look at active shows. I don't look at shows that have are dead 60 days. Anything that's I don't look at dead shows. I look at new shows or shows that are actively contributing or making content.
Yeah, I think Rob, has put it out there many times that what the median average number of listeners or downloads or whatever to a particular podcast, I think it was like
Yeah,
165,
yeah, something
something
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah,
So if you look at it from that perspective, is that number declining or is that number
I
increasing?
think his number's been going up.
Has it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't quote me on that, but you know, he, it hasn't went up much if it has.
Hmm.
But essentially, and I should run this. I've talked about it a few times, and all I got to do is push a button to get the numbers. So I should pull it and get the average. But um, we look at shows that are more active, like a 60 days. How many shows have produced
Yeah.
the content in the past 60 days, and what's their audience size? So
Yeah, I think at the next state of podcasting panel, like at Podcast Movement, we should really drill in on that if we can,
yeah.
just to get an idea of what's happening on the audience side. Because we talk a lot about the content side and how many shows and the
Hmm.
genres and stuff, but we don't talk about the listener side very
Well,
much.
and what these new podcasters do too is, their circle of influence is obviously they're going to have their core circle, family,
Hmm.
friends, people that they know.
Hmm.
They're all those folks are going to know and learn about podcasting because this new show is doing that. So just from that essence alone, because the podcaster's going to tell grandma about it. Grandma's going to be like, I don't understand it, but maybe the podcaster's going to help grandma get subscribed so she can listen. And grandma's going to tell other grandmas, and the moms are going to tell their moms. So you're going to have this. Just because we're having a number of new shows come on board, we're going to see the knowledge base increase. Because I truly think what happens, and this is true for my mom. My mom's been listening to my show for many, many years, but from the beginning, obviously, she listens to every episode that I do. She is now, without my input, expanded her listening significantly across a number of shows that she has seeked out and discovered herself, and she's told her friends. So
Hmm.
we will. It's kind of the slow way to grow it, but
Hmm.
it's a lot of interconnecting circles there, and I think we're going to get growth just, you know, no matter what, based upon these new shows coming on board.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, uh, great new shows can attract listeners to the medium, and that may be what's going on. And I think Dave Van Dyke from the Bridge Ratings thing, I think he's emphasizing that as well. I think to some degree, I'm scanning through his our research here, but he does point out the voice activated platform of Echo from the Amazon folks as
Mm-hmm.
a key driver of the future of the growth of this particular medium.
I don't know about
And
that, but yeah.
well, I mean, if you think holistically about what Echo is, I mean, not Echo, but the Alexa platform is
Right,
probably the
right,
better
right,
thing to
right, right,
focus
right.
on. That's going to be integrated into cars. It's going to be integrated into all sorts of devices that make sense for this kind of thing. Um, and it could just make it easier to get access to the content. I don't know about when you think about Alexa and you think about Echo and these devices, I don't know that it necessarily solves the discovery problem necessarily. I think it solves the access
Oh, maybe,
problem.
maybe.
Yeah. So how do you promote a podcast on a voice activated platform like this?
Well, it's
It
up
has
to
to be promoted outside of the platform,
well, it has to
right?
be promoted on the podcast by the podcaster,
Hmm.
you know,
Or
and
or in the media or in other ways, right? Word of mouth,
you
that
know,
kind
and
of stuff.
this is what I say in my regular show, and and I have it scripted. I say, watch the show on the Roku via the Tech Podcast channel or on the Apple TV. Listen on the Amazon Echo by telling Alexa to play the latest edition of this show's name. You can listen on Stitcher, watch or listen on Blueberry.com, or tell Google Home, okay, Google, to play the podcast and then the podcast name.
Mhm.
That's what I tell that in every episode of my show to instruct the listening audience how to play. Now, this is the existing audience, obviously, but I also have new listeners that are coming in every episode. So I want to give them all the options on how to listen or watch the show on a variety of devices. But I also, in the intro to the show, talk about of course, iTunes and Android and Google Play and all those other places. But I give everyone the full stack of what their options are to listen to this um, podcast. Now, one of my fans unlocked the secret word you have to tell Google Play or Google Home on how to play a podcast because we're trying to figure it out. And again, my Google Play is gonna or my Google Home's gonna react. I'll say it quietly. Okay, Google. It heard me say it, and it's waiting for me to say something. So it's gonna wait now. Then I say, it's gonna respond. I don't know what you're talking about. Uh, Play the podcast Geek News Central, and it'll play the latest episode.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've got it sitting here 2 feet away from me. So that's, I tell my audience how to do it, but at the same time, if someone's listening on that device and I say it exactly the way you're supposed to say it, it'll flip it and make them restart the show.
Well, and soon these devices won't have to be you won't have to talk to them quite as structured either. I don't believe.
Right.
So um, hopefully they'll get a little more natural language capable. Um, but they do need to have some sort of an audio trigger to initiate their engagement because
And there's
if
different,
they're constantly engaging, unless they're so smart that they know when you're talking to them or when they're not, right?
but there's things that podcasters can do too, and there's a pretty smart, and there's some ways that you can. I think Joe Rogan has put something in together for his show that is relatively simple to make the Google Home understand how to play his show, and it's not as many complex words. But it's um, it's something we're all going to be looking at. But that doesn't really get us back, Rob, to the conversation at hand about growing the audience, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is what it is. You just gotta, you gotta grind. You gotta grind and do the shows, and go where your audience is, and I always see a huge boost after CES. Why? I promote the hell out of the show in my content for my interviews at CES. I'm getting exposure to audience that have never listened to my podcast,
Hmm. Yeah.
and they listen to the interview. And okay, so what, on average, now this year I didn't do as many. I personally only did about 40 interviews at CES, which
Hmm.
is usually about my normal, but I didn't combine them. All told, we probably did 150, 160.
Hmm.
So this year I focus on only having my content on my site. And so, yes, I'm going to drive people back. What is those numbers equal to? I don't know. As long as I see steady growth, I'm good. But, I do those events because I know that it's going to gain me new listeners back to the core show.
Yeah. Yeah, and growth for your show is sometimes unpredictable. I mean, that's been my experience. You just don't know. You just keep doing it every week,
Yep.
and something breaks, or you get a link somewhere, or you just never know where that spike in audience is going to come from. Maybe you just happen to do a topic on your show, and you've done your SEO and done good titles, and it just connects, right? And you get a growth spurt.
So, what I'm actually finding to be more effective right now, and since I
Hmm.
changed my introduction, because what I'm trying to do in my introduction of my show is to give within the first 2 minutes of the show, people understanding what's going to be in the show. So, I've
Hmm.
gotten a lot of feedback from folks that when I start the show, I list 5 or 6 topics of what I'm going to talk about today, the top topics.
Hmm.
And those 5 or 6 teasers at the beginning keep people through at least the first 20 to 30 minutes of the
Oh, good.
program, and gets them intrigued to maybe they'll fast forward to the content. I don't know, but they're at least staying, and it's basically helping the audience understand what's going to be in today's show. Because if you're just doing the show and you're not really talking about what you're going to talk about at the beginning, people have to wait for it. Then,
Yeah.
it's a change that I've made here recently, and it's working out well. Another thing too is make sure you're titling your show right today. So what did I call our show today? And I didn't do a good job out of it. I said today we're news and rumors. Okay, New Media Show number 159. News is that enough to get people later to pull in? And if I don't have a rumor to share, then are we false advertising? So and we did. We essentially have the rumor on the serious thing. So I'm playing
Well,
that for every penny it's worth.
yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about Leo Laporte and the Twit network.
Right.
He has this. He's been doing it for years and years. How he titles his episodes, and if you think about it, I'm not sure it makes much sense, because I don't know if if you remember, Todd, that he typically titles his episodes in a way that's almost like he's trying to play a joke or something. He's trying to be funny.
Hmm.
But when you go back and you look at his episode lists on many of his shows, there's no you don't really know what the heck they're talking about in their episode. I mean, it's like this weird thing. I can probably pull it up here
He
and
queries the audience too, I think, doesn't he? And he
well,
he he, he determines what the title episode is going to be after he finishes the show.
correct, but he usually pulls something that it was something funny that one of the
Right.
co-hosts said, or there was some thing in there that he thought was interesting. But when you actually read the actual titles themselves, it's actually doesn't really tell anybody what the topic was,
Right. Hey, go
which
ahead.
kind of defeats the purpose, right?
And for those of you that are joining us on YouTube today, you can also come join the live chat at facebook.com/Cochrane, Cochrane, because we're doing real good on Facebook, on YouTube numbers today. So if you want to come over and chit chat with us, or at newmediashow.com/live is another place you can come and add to the chat.
So I'm going to pull up one of his episodes from Windows Weekly, and we can talk about it a little bit, but seems to be loading slow.
So
So
it's a
hang on.
standard SEO tactic though to load your title. That's load your title, and then in your description make sure that whatever you loaded your title with, make sure that's duplicated in the description. That helps with your with your Google indexing and having that as a keyword and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So,
Yeah.
all that goes into this whole thing, and I probably, impact my SEO negatively because I still use on like this show, it's NMS number 159 and then a title. Is there a reason to do that? I guess I'm old school and that's the way I've always done it. Do I
Yeah.
need to do that anymore? Probably not. But it used to be
Yeah.
that the reason we did it and we had a numbering system was that it showed up sequentially in some players that really didn't know what the newest episode was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's always been, and if you go back to the early MP3 players,
Right.
they had very limited character count that
Right.
would display on the screen. And if you look at what Leo does for Windows Weekly, the latest episode of Windows Weekly is WW 479 Luke, comma, I am your node name. That's the name of his episode.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what does that have to do with? And then another one was Citizen Pizza, and another one was Jaunty Picks. So it's like, how do you, Mary Jo storms out.
Well, that just throws out,
You know,
very popular podcasts, obviously, and a lot of it's because Leo's Leo, but it just goes to show that maybe it doesn't mean nothing to have a great catchy title because look at what Leo does.
yeah, I mean, it's really really funny. I mean, you look at a guy like him who's been doing this for so long, has had such success in the medium, and from what I can tell, continues to have success. And his practices, I mean, you kind of see what he's doing, and he is holding on to a lot of the old ways that this medium was built around.
Yeah.
With the episode numbers and
Yeah.
the acronym kind of like at the beginning. I mean, because we both do that too.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of podcasters don't do that.
Yeah, they
They'll
don't
just
do it.
put in there just the name
Yep.
of the episode, right?
Yep.
And that's all they have. There's no episode number.
And we basically, and if you're using PowerPress, we added those SEO features so that it would help people that don't use the numbering system. If you have a title, then at the end it adds automatically, you can have it append your show name or something like that onto it. So,
Mhm.
I don't even follow some of the, stuff that we put out for podcasters to use. Hey, I want to move on to a different topic, Rob. And I'm just shaking my head. Spotify is looking for original podcasts.
What?
A big new front is opening in the war for exclusive podcasts.
So is that
Spotify,
something new, Todd, or
Spotify has been talking to podcast producers about original shows, including Gimlet, How Stuff Works, and Pineapple Street Media. According to multiple people familiar with the discussion, Spotify did not make an executive available for comment, of course. The shows which Spotify would like to focus on are music, according to one producer that's spoken to the service, would be the first step in a long-term play. Several platforms are making to become hubs for both music and spoken word audio content. They could also serve as a valuable way for Spotify to grow its revenue ahead of an IPO. Many expect to happen either this or next year. So
okay?
we can't add podcasts to Spotify because they've only got a couple of people.
Yeah, exactly. It's not staffed enough.
Mark McCurry says, I think it would be fantastic goal for these services would have 10% of their listening time be talk, said Mark McCurry. I think achieving that is a long-term play. I think I'm just laughing based upon what I know about Spotify and their track record here.
Yeah. And
Show me the
believe me,
money.
we want
Yeah.
Spotify engaged here. We want them to be involved, and we want them to help drive listeners to this medium. And it just, unfortunately, it's been a little frustrating, I think, for many of us that have been hoping that things would work out here. So, and it sounds like they're still engaged, and that's important. And I think that's good. I mean, we had Spotify on stage at Podcast Movement talking about their efforts. So I still have my fingers crossed that things are gonna grow and develop for that.
Yeah, and it's we kind of we chagrin or we scold both Spotify and and a couple others in space for not being so inclusive. But they got to do what they're going to do, and they got to figure it out on their
Yeah,
own.
totally. Yeah.
The
But we're a little bit from the perspective we've seen this before. We've seen it so many times. I
Yeah,
mean, I faced the same issue when I was working at Microsoft. I mean, it's the default position that a lot of bigger companies, media companies, it's the scarcity model. It's the popularity model that they tend to fall into, not really understanding what the drivers of this medium are really all about. And I had this struggle with many executives at Microsoft too. It's so this isn't just a Spotify thing, or it's a Google thing, or a Pandora thing. This is kind of how people think about this medium. How Todd and I think about it, is different.
yep,
That's because we've been around this medium for so long. We see what works and what doesn't work, and that's where we're coming from. And I know people maybe think we're negative about this stuff with these folks, but in a lot of ways, you kind of have to be. How can I say? You kind of have to be a little stern about it because they're not going to do something different naturally.
right. And I had an email discussion with a company over the past couple of weeks, and it's tough. It's tough to make them understand the um, the impact that they're having on their brand or the reputation that is being. Well, they don't see the upside.
Mm-hmm.
I try to explain to them. Here's the upside. If you're more open and letting more shows come in, you're going to have all these podcasters talking about your platform. You're going to get all this free
Mm-hmm.
advertising. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a link on their websites back to your page. This is promotion you can't buy.
Yeah.
And yet we can't do that. We don't have the resources to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a and maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't see. Maybe these companies don't see podcasting as helping them. But I'm going to be honest with you. Spotify, what are they? They're not a primarily a podcasting company. They're a modified music company, right?
Yep. Yep.
iHeartRadio, what are they? They're syndicating radio stations from what was Clear Channel.
Mm-hmm.
Clear Channel is iHeartRadio. For those of you that don't know, all right,
Yeah.
that's you heard of everything negative you've always heard about Clear Channel is iHeart. About this conglomerate. So what do? They have all their radio stations on, and they have some podcasts on. So they really care. Are they trying to get podcasters to promote to get them to listen to radio stations? There's quid pro quo here. If the podcaster's on and promoting them, the listeners could go listen to radio versus listen to podcasts. So, I think Rob, you and I probably focus a little too much on these big platforms. Maybe it's time to start talking about the apps. Maybe we should dedicate some time to talking about the apps that are
That's a good point.
podcasting apps and start
And being
talking.
less concerned about these big media
Yeah,
companies, or
and make
yeah.
sure that because what Rob and I were about distribution. We want syndication. We want our shows to be everywhere. We all want that. But if they're not going to be open and they're going to restrict it to a segment and all these types of rules that you're going to have to follow to be on their platform, well, fuck them. We'll start promoting the apps and help build their eco structure. You know.
But Todd, like you said, I mean, a lot of the apps are built on the Apple's, um, the Apple
Well,
catalog.
but at the same time, each app has its own kind of features and different stuff. So
Sure, sure.
you
There's
know.
a lot of stuff, that each of these apps do to differentiate
Mm-hmm.
themselves in the market, and they're always pushing the envelope on that because they're competing with each other.
Yep.
And you're right, Todd. We don't talk about a lot of those apps quite
Yeah.
as much, and I'm not quite sure why we don't, other than just we're trying to. I guess we tend to try and cover what we think might be the really big impacts.
But right
Um,
now, where's the podcast being consumed? Look at your stats. Look at the app. If you're a podcaster
yeah,
and you see an app that's pushing a lot of people to you, you better jump on that and like hammer that. like a 10-inch penny nail, and bang, bang, bang on it until it's keep promoting it, and where you're
Yeah.
seeing traction, hammer away. I This is completely off topic, but I have
Oh,
to go ahead.
oh, on that same topic, I was just going to
Sure.
mention one of the other challenges that I see with those apps, like you were talking about, is that oftentimes the developers of those apps are not really involved in the community very much. Is that kind of what your
Yeah,
observation is too?
a few of them are, but the majority of them are not.
I don't have I've a lot of these folks I've never even spoken to before,
You know,
and I've been involved
and
13 years here.
and I've got all kinds of ideas that would allow their apps to be better. But do they? I don't remember anyone ever asking me for advice on what we should bring. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
because there's a lot of stuff and maybe they should be asking the podcasters what they want in those apps too. They're,
Yeah.
they're focused on the listener part, but the podcaster, if he, okay, for example, our community drives features and drives stuff that happens in our system. And the person that is the most active and hammering away at us, the greasy wheel gets or the squeaky wheel gets greased, right?
Yep.
And the person that comes to us says, "Man, have you guys got this done yet, or can you add this?" And I'm hearing from them every month, and they're like, "Where are we at on this?" That makes me listen, and that maybe that'll get popped up a little bit higher on the priority list because I know someone really wants it, and when we add it, they're really going to promote it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's promotion you can't buy. Um, and if it makes sense and it's a good idea, we give them credit where credit's due, and roll something in. It's every platform can be better, and we all get inputs from our audiences and from our customers, and those are the people we should listen to the most. I think the maybe we're not the exact customer for the app, but we should go to these app guys and how come? How come you're not doing this, or why don't you add this, or and what you can actually do is you could help an app increase their ranking by having them implement stuff that you want and then promoting the crap out of it.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
go ahead.
I would be really interesting to have Marco Arment on the show at some point.
Oh, he'd be good. Yeah.
I'd say he's the one that's kind of pushed the envelope on this stuff as much as pretty much anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've I think I've I think I tried to invite him on at one point, but for some reason we didn't connect up. But um, do you know Marco
I
too?
don't. I don't.
Oh, you don't. Okay.
I may.
So
I may have his email. I'll look for it.
okay, because let's try and reach out to Marco and get his perspective. I know he's got a little bit of a different perspective on this medium, just
Mm-hmm.
from the standpoint that he doesn't come from this medium like us.
Yep.
So he's more of newly into this medium, so he can maybe bring a little different perspective. So it'd be great to have him on.
I do. I do want to toot my own horn just a little bit. We put an article up this week talking about our affiliate program,
Oh yeah, I
and
saw that. Yeah.
and I want to thank a couple of folks that participated and provided this information. Obviously, Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity podcast, that talked about in depth. And it takes a lot, and it's pretty brave to put your numbers out there on what you earn. But Daniel's a pretty big case study of what's possible by getting involved in an affiliate program that you really support. Also, Colin Gray, founder of the podcast host, and his discussion, he doesn't necessarily share numbers, but he talks about his exposure. So um, I think when it comes to advertising on your show, if you're not getting any offers from CPM type vendors, Commission Junction and those types of places are always options.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in the near future, I'm going to talk about some strategies that you can use to increase your chances of a particular affiliate program that you're working with in succeeding.
Hmm.
It's many times it's not a short-term solution. It's a multi-year process.
Hmm.
But I think I recently have unlocked some ideas that will help folks that are doing affiliate stuff. And this is not, I'm not a network marketing guy. I'm not an internet marketing guy. I just know what's worked for me. So I'll probably be doing some sharing on that at some point in the near future. But
Okay.
anyway, thanks to Daniel and Colin for sharing their experiences with us. So sorry for the tooting my own horn thing, but Rob, what do you guys got going on over there at Spreaker?
Oh, we've just been kind of adjusting to the big change that we made to the stats. The public stats versus the private stats, and we've been, trying to react to the community as and we talked about it on last week's episode of the show about how Spreaker has public stats. So you can get in and see how many people are playing and downloading your episode right on your show page, so everybody can see it. And we decided to take that down, and a lot of people didn't like that. So we've been trying to figure out a go forward strategy on how we can deploy that in a more sensible way to take into account all levels of podcasters that maybe want their stats public, for for whatever reason, and then those that want it private. There can be a lot of reasons why a person would want their stats public. There's a lot of reasons why somebody would want their stats private. So that's what we're wrestling with, is that particular issue. So
Well, we've had our own stats drama going on
yeah.
through our upgraded system, and the processor biting off more than it could chew,
Mm,
and some other things. But I'll just make
yeah.
a simple statement. And podcasters, don't take this the wrong way, but you guys are batshit crazy over your stats.
Are you surprised, Todd? I'm not.
I know
Like,
we were taken
it's a
aback.
sensitive topic. It's a sensitive
Well,
topic.
it's, I mean, like, I guess maybe I forget. I've been in the space long enough now. I don't look at my stats very often. But when I was early in the space, I looked at them every day, maybe a couple of times a day.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I forget about the excitement of looking and see where the numbers were.
Yeah.
And so, the longer you're a podcaster, the less often you go in and look at your stuff because you're focused on building a show and you're not so focused on the stats. But
Hmm.
oh man, oh man, it can be and this was really our first experience to getting some blowback because we had some we didn't lose any data, but we were slow to update data, and that definitely caused whew. you know I call it when someone's on blast. When my phone rings, I don't know who it is, and I try to answer every call, and not even hello. It's like, what the fuck is
Where the
wrong
hell are
with
my
my
stats?
stats? I'm like, and I'm getting it like I'm holding the phone, a foot back. I'm like, okay, your name, your show. I'm sorry. And they're like, I don't, you do everything you can to calm someone down, but and okay, and then you get into their show and you look at it and you're like, like 52 listeners or something. You're like, and you're screaming at me at the top of your lungs. Please be calm. Please be calm. Don't have a heart attack.
Well, there's a lot of people that link up their how they feel about themselves with their numbers, and I think it's a very personal thing to many people.
It is. It
Um,
is. And
yeah.
we fully understand that. So
Yeah.
we're very sensitive to, but we were trying to expand the data we're providing, right? Another layer of the onion, and we peeled it a little too deep for what resources we had available for it. We think we're ahead of it, but now we've got one little thing left to fix. And what we found is that for us specifically, and Angela probably doesn't want me to tell this, but the paid customers can go in and refresh, and when they refresh, it updates their stats within the last hour. Um, we process them every so many hours automatically and update them, but someone can come in and hit refresh, and
Hmm.
and the refresh now, it's a much more complicated process because we're, like I said, we've peeled the onion back another layer.
Yeah.
So before, 50 people could hit refresh at a time and it wouldn't have caused any trouble. That's not the case anymore. So now we're queuing, and we're queuing the refresh, and it doesn't help. Someone comes in and hits the refresh button 17 times in a row while it's saying, hey, we're doing this for you.
As the server melts down, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm running on like, these are not cheap. These are like $1,000 a month server packages, not just one.
Yeah.
These are not small machines or databases. These are massive. You know, uh, yeah. We're talking about very very expensive hardware to do this. So it's not like I've just got some you know Core
Box,
5 machine on it or something.
some Pentium 4 under your desk, right?
No, no, no. This is a big bad dog in a data center, but
Yeah.
and well that's what it's what happens when you've got 45, 50,000 people. That's you're bringing in millions and millions of new data points every day. That's a lot. The data adds up, and we've been doing this since 2005, so you can imagine how massive the database is.
Todd, actually, speaking of the whole desktop computer under the desk, my first website that I did for my radio show back in '99 was actually hosted on a Windows PC under a guy's desk in a IT department.
Well,
Seriously.
when I had my BBS. And those of you who don't know what a BBS is, go ahead and look it up. I run a Wildcat multi-line BBS. When I was in Guam, I ran a four-line system, and then when I came to the mainland, living in Pax River, Maryland, it wasn't going to work. I couldn't get four lines in the house to begin with, and I wanted to grow bigger. So there was an internet service provider in town, and I went. I said, "Can I need to plug in to the to your network." And I said,
Yeah.
I don't need a lot of space. I'm going to have two machines in there, a bunch of, and we were using racks of, oh man, it was crazy. CD changers, a whole bunch of stuff. And he says, I've got a closet that we could stuff you in. And I'm like, closet's cool. So what I did is,
Top shelf back in the corner,
no,
right?
I'm
Yeah.
not kidding you. He gave me the closet. I emptied it out. It was a broom closet. And along one wall, I put a shelf, and on the back side, I put another shelf, and I put the computers in and monitors, and we dropped the LAN cord into a network, got it all hooked up. And
Yeah.
then, in order to get into the room, I would open the door and pull a chair out. And then I would walk into the room and bring the chair with me and sit down. And he didn't like the closet door open, so I had to shut the door. And I literally worked in a closet in order to have my system online.
Yeah.
So then when I moved to Hawaii, I will say that for about 8 or 9 years, I ran the bulletin board via my cable modem.
Yeah.
But and I had all kinds of firewalls in effect to make sure that the cable provider could not get to that machine. I blocked, like I mapped out the entire cable network and figured out where their administration layer was, and I blocked those IPs from being able to ping that machine. And I did everything I could to protect it from being discovered, and they never did, or at least they never said anything.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's funny to think about where we started in this stuff way back in the early days of the internet. Um, because both of us were involved at the very beginning of this medium
Yeah.
and have seen it. It used to be a novelty back then, right? It used to be something unique
Yeah.
and very challenging actually to work with. Now it's like taken for granted.
Yep.
Everybody's doing it. It's lost its pizzazz in some ways.
Yep.
It's so a part of everybody's life now that it's almost like thinking about like the telephone or something. It's just you just take it for granted now.
So I don't get any questions anymore. I say I do a podcast. Oh, where's it at? And I tell them the website, and then I tell them I run a podcasting company. And that gets eyebrows. What do you mean you run a podcasting company? And I explain that, and that gets oh wow, and then they want to know more. But before podcast, what the hell's a podcast? I've never had anybody. I mean, I can't remember the last couple of years me telling someone that I had a podcast, and they didn't like. Oh, and they immediately asked me, "Where's it at?" I think the re-
Mm.
I think the number of people who know what podcasting is much higher than what these surveys show. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I
But
would agree with that.
so
And but also it's it's still difficult when somebody asks me what I do
right.
to 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 explain to them what I do in the job that I have. I still find that it's sometimes challenging for people to understand what I do. And you know, I don't know about you.
So Daniel asked me question: when is the next podcast Legends episode? Oh man, I'm going to tell you. I need an assistant. I really do.
I was
Uh,
wondering about that too the other
yeah,
day, Daniel.
I need someone to help me book guests. I'm not good at it. I'm really not good at it. I'm great at doing the show, but booking episodes is not good. So if anyone wants like just to help me with booking, drop me an email. I don't want to hire anyone in the Philippines. I don't want a PA. I want to if you're a podcaster and you want to maybe earn a little extra cash or something, help me book people for the show. Drop me a line, you know. And I guess that's the only way I'm going to get this thing is to get some help. I'm CPU'd out. My Pentium 4 is at 99%.
Todd, I would come on and do the show with you, but I do the show with you every week, so I don't need to be
Well,
on that show.
but no, Rob, we're going to have to get you on and tell your whole story.
Oh, okay.
You and I know what your story is, but not everyone knows your whole story from back before even podcasting was a thing.
So so how much time do you usually devote to that?
An hour. You got an hour. And well, whatever it takes. I don't say we have to
Yeah.
put it an hour, but I think you can cover the majority of your. If you can't tell what you've done in the past 12 years in an hour, well, maybe you can't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
I was doing this stuff before there was podcasting,
yeah,
so
yeah, I wasn't. So
yeah. Yeah.
I was fixing airplanes, flying them, doing missions
S-
over the.
Spy, you
Uh,
spy, you.
yeah, well, I'm not going to use that word. But I did live by the saying, "God we trust, all others we monitor." So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
if you want to help out, let me know. I think it's time to. That's the only way I'm going to get the show back on track is to get some help. But anyway, that's it for today. I think we're already long,
Yeah.
and I've got another interview coming up. That's another thing too. I've been doing a lot of interviews, but
It's good.
yeah, it's good. Appreciate
Keeps you out
folks that are
there.
considering me.
So I'm going to see you next week.
Yeah, I fly into. I'm going to Tampa first. Fly in there
That's right.
Wednesday
To,
morning.
to go see your daughter.
See
Yeah.
her, and then
Awesome.
I'll be in probably 2, 3 o'clock, maybe on Thursday afternoon, or maybe 2 o'clock, something like that. I'm not getting in real early. I know there's stuff going on during the day, but are you going to any of that stuff on Thursday in the morning?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure. I get in at about 4:30 on the 22nd.
Okay.
So Wednesday.
Yeah, so
So
maybe be in by noon. I don't know. Barry Kantz, our CFO, is going to meet me, and then we'll 23rd, 24th, and 25th, and then on the 26th, 27th, we have Rob Voice has their annual planning retreat right in the same hotel. So if you're hanging out there, the whole team is going to be there Sunday and Monday.
Carib Royale. Is that where you're doing it?
Yep, yep. We've
Wow.
rented a villa.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we'll be hanging out in one of the villas. So I don't know if there's going to be too much bikini action, maybe to distract us. I don't know. We normally do this in Chicago where there is no distractions in the wintertime.
So when are you flying back though?
I come back on the 28th.
The 20. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm staying out through the 3rd of
Yeah.
March.
So what happens then is Angelo comes in on the 25th. He will be there in the afternoon, and then Barry and him are going to do NRB Tuesday
Hmm.
through whatever that show end date
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I'm doing that show as well. Yep.
So,
That should
and
be interesting.
and any of you that have faith-based shows that are in the Orlando area, the National Religious Broadcaster Conference is going on next week after, the following week, the 28th. Guess it's not next week, 2 weeks from now.
And it's a conference that's very similar to the NAB, but it just is very focused on that genre of religious broadcasters from the television side, radio side, and growingly the podcast side. Since the number one genre in podcasting, if you didn't know, is religious podcasters.
Yep.
So
And we've got a huge segment of that business using our tools on their on their website. But most of these churches are running off WordPress, so it makes sense. So
yep, it does make sense.
okay, bada bing, bada boom. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you at Podfest. Make sure you come up and say hello. Let us know if you're listening to the New Media Show when you say hello to us. We want to know that as well. We want to know who you are, and of course, Rob and I will be there for our respective companies as well.
So we're not going to do a show next Saturday because we're both going to be tied up.
Yep. But we'll be back the following week, the 4th.
The 4th, yeah. We can do it on the 4th.
I
Sure.
don't think there's any conflict. So anyway, but everyone, thanks for being here. Todd at New Media Show or geeknews@gmail.com. You can follow me at Geek News on Twitter. Rob?
RobGreenlee.com. My email is rob@Spreaker.com, and that's with an R. That's the best way to reach me. And then also I have an email, rob@robgreenlee.com too. So if you want to send it more of a personal thing.
And for those of you that have been watching on YouTube, just remember newmediashow.com is the place to go to subscribe to the show. And same for those of you on Facebook, get subscribed so that you get the show delivered if you miss an episode live. And of course, we always have the chat room open at both of those sites at newmediashow.com/live and at facebook.com/Cochrane. All right, everyone. See you next time here on the New Media Show.
Bye.